Now we're
Hello.
Hi.
It's Wednesday. It's 1 o'clock, and it is time for What's Up, Westchester.
That's me.
We are coming to you live today from Serendipity Labs here in Rye. And just to remind our viewers, this is What's Up Westchester by the Kim Arenas team. And today I have Elizabeth Pittman.
Yep.
Here with me as co-host, and I am Kim Arenas, and the rest of our team is Margaret Ann Tilford, Yvonne Nelson, and Elizabeth Damiano. And some of you may recall us talking about Elizabeth. She is getting married in, is it 2.5 weeks? So she's a little busy right now, so she will not be joining us today, but a big shout out to our little bride who will
She'll be back with us.
She'll be back with us after the wedding for sure.
Yes.
But just to remind you, this is What's Up Westchester, and what we like to do Wednesdays at 1 is answer questions and talk about topics that are interesting to our viewers.
Relevant to you.
Relevant to you, absolutely. So what we do is we take questions and suggestions for topics, and today we're talking about the difference between cash, no mortgage contingency, and mortgage contingency when making an offer.
And we got some good questions.
We have some good questions.
Sparked your interest.
Yes, and I think, it's changed over the years, and I think it depends on what kind of, economic climate we're in. And of course, it matters, every seller's different, right? When you say, Elizabeth,
Absolutely.
So every seller
sale is different.
Every sale is different, and every seller has a different motivation. So where cash may be really important to a seller who says, I, need to close quickly, I don't have time for any, delays, then obviously cash is more important to that seller, right?
Right.
And then, some sellers will even ask us, they'll say, well, what's the difference between no mortgage contingency and cash? If they are coming to the closing table and whether they're getting a mortgage or they're paying cash, should that really matter to me? So this topic really, we heard from sellers and from buyers asking us questions about this topic. So let's go, Elizabeth.
Yep.
What is our first question? And we'll just go down the list and answer questions. And of course, if you are just tuning in or you have a question that we're not answering, please feel free to ask your question in the comments section, and we will try to answer your question as well.
We'll try.
That's right. No promises. And also,
it could be another show.
It could be another show. And we really are trying to keep our show. We would like to hear from you. If you think our show
should be able to hear us now because we have a new microphone.
We have our new microphone. It looks very professional. Thanks, Margaret Ann and Sean. But we really would like to hear from you because this show is for you. It's really for our viewers, and we're trying to bring value to you. So, 5 to 7 minutes. 9 to 12 minutes. You tell us what you think.
We could do this all day.
Well, we have a lot of fun, especially when we get started. So,
so
our first question.
Here we go. So this is a great question. With mortgage rates low, like they are right now, I wonder if people are still choosing to tie up their cash in a home purchase versus borrowing the money from the bank. Based on our experiences, how prevalent is a cash offer in the area where you're serving?
Okay.
Great question.
Great question. And I noticed that, the viewer, she says, she talks about rates being low. Now, I just want to clarify that rates are still historically low.
Right.
Yes, they are. However, in the past few weeks, we have seen rates bump up just a little bit. But rates are still historically low. So that's a great question. But what I will tell you is sometimes if you're in a competitive bidding situation, if you have the opportunity and you can pay cash, that can really help you stand out above the other offers. So we do often see cash in our market. What we don't see much of is mortgage contingencies.
Right.
I mean, I would say it is more the exception to have a mortgage contingency than to not have a mortgage contingency in Westchester County in the Sound Shore community.
Right.
And when I say that, we're talking Larchmont, Mamaroneck,
Rye,
Rye, Harrison, in these areas. Particularly in competitive bidding situations, someone with a mortgage contingency, that really decreases their chances in being successful in the bidding process. Even if their offer is higher, let's say, they've offered $20,000, maybe more than the highest bidder, sellers will often go with the no mortgage contingency or the cash offer.
Right.
Because what it means to have a mortgage contingency, and this is why Elizabeth said, maybe this is another topic and we could go on for a while, but to have a mortgage contingency, that means the seller really, they have a contract that's contingent on this buyer getting a mortgage.
Obtaining a mortgage.
No.
Successfully.
That being said, I think in 10 years of being in this business, I think only one time
have you seen that happen?
I've seen a buyer not be able to get their mortgage. That being said, also, they can't just say, oh, I've changed my mind. I, can't get a mortgage, therefore I want out of my contract.
Right.
They have to actually prove
that they cannot obtain a mortgage. To be able to then get their 10% back and walk away from the deal. But you can see why sellers, that would make them nervous to be in a contract that's contingent. In limbo, yes. Right.
They don't even feel like they can start their plans for moving
until a mortgage is obtained.
Until a mortgage is obtained, until they have that commitment. So
let's do a little buyer 101. So mortgage contingency would be, I'm making an offer contingent on, fingers crossed, most likely I'm getting a mortgage.
Yes.
No mortgage contingency would be like, I'm making this offer, I'm good for it, I'm still getting a mortgage, but it's not, this offer is not contingent on that because I'm confident I will get a mortgage.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Just a little.
That is a good point. And also backing up to even what you said about having a mortgage contingency, just to clarify that also, that is typically, always, I don't really see it being different unless it's negotiated, but that's a 30-day mortgage contingency. So the buyer has from the contract signing, typically, unless otherwise negotiated.
Right.
Sometimes a seller will say, well, I will take it, but you have 20 days to get the mortgage, and that would be an exception. It's usually standard is 30 days. Standard is 30 days, right? So you can see why, to a seller, if he has competing offers, having a mortgage contingency would not be really in their best interest.
And what's behind a mortgage contingency sometimes? Could it be that the buyer has something to sell or not necessarily?
Well, no, right. In this market, we had someone ask us about that, right? But in this market, I've never really seen, where something contingent
on that.
If so, that would be very rare, and there'd be very special circumstances.
Okay.
So let's see if we answered. Did we actually answer? We're talking a lot.
A lot of these are
answer the
overlapping,
question.
so I think we did answer that. So.
Well, and I will say too,
people still willing to tie up their cash? Yes, we are, but
then sometimes they'll go back and get a mortgage.
Absolutely,
but that's more expensive. But sometimes they're like, I want to pay cash because I want this house and I want to stand out and I want the seller to go with me, right? I want them to take my offer. Keep in mind that in our busy season, sometimes on property, especially if they're like priced between $900,000 and say 1.5. Properties can have 6, 7, 8 offers. We've even seen like in the spring season, like 12 offers.
Yeah.
Right. So someone's saying, okay, I'm going to use my cash
and stand out.
Because obviously not everyone has cash, that they can, pay.
Or not
at closing.
That much cash.
Exactly, right?
Right.
So that does in some cases help someone stand out amongst the rest.
Because I know
we're trying to stick to a time schedule. However, I like the fact that people can just come in and out. You don't have to stay with us the whole time.
This is absolutely. You can And you can pause us and watch.
She's keeping me online.
I'm keeping you online. Okay, so this is a good one from a friend of the show, Amy. She says, here's something we've always wondered about. We put an offer on a home once with no contingencies, but we did want an inspection. We lost out on the house. We heard we weren't necessarily outbid, but the other buyer happened to go without an inspection. Do you think our inspection requirement really weakened our offer? It obviously turned out for the best, but she's just curious. I've only seen that happen once.
Well, I have to say,
because we always,
as buyer's agents, what do we say?
Always get an inspection.
Always get an
Never
inspection.
advise you not to do that.
So that's right. With our buyers, we would never advise someone to not get an inspection. And even when we're representing our sellers, we of course explain to them that buyers should indeed be able to have their time and go through the inspection process.
Right.
And again, we could do another whole show, and we will on the inspection process. And I think some people are surprised that, once you get that accepted offer, it is expected in this market that you will inspect like in the next day, 2 or 3 days. Anything beyond 3 days after an accepted offer, the seller's not going to want to wait around, right? So it is right after that. And so, if not being able to have an inspection weakens your offer, I would say maybe this is not the right house.
What might not have been the right house anyway. Because it's standard for people.
To be able to have an inspection. Absolutely. Now, sometimes in competitive bidding situations, the seller may say, I'm going to take this offer, but the inspection is for informational purposes only.
Right.
And when we do our segment on inspections, we'll talk more about what that actually means. But just kind of an overview, that's like they don't want the buyer then coming in and trying to renegotiate the deal. Right. So we'll talk more about that and what's standard.
But that sounds like another episode.
And
speaking of another episode, let's talk about next week.
I'll talk about next week. But before we talk about next week, I still want to answer at least 2 more questions because people can come in and out. I know it's like keeping us to a time. But I do want to say, if you're just joining us, this is What's Up Westchester. Episode 6. I don't think we said episode 6 earlier.
No, we didn't.
This is episode 6.
Glad we said it now.
Yes. Last week we came to you live from Brooklyn. Yes, that was a lot of fun. We had a special guest, William. Thank you, William. But episode 6. And if you're joining us, it's What's Up Westchester. It's the Kim Arenas team. We're at Houlihan Lawrence, and we come to you each week talking about the things that you want to talk about, things that you are asking us about. And I am excited about next week's topic, but until we get to that, let's answer do we have another question here, or did a lot of these overlap?
This is a good one. Robert asked, so if you have no contingency, obviously it's more attractive to your sellers. The risk is high if you stand to lose your down payment.
If the mortgage doesn't come through.
Besides those who are confident in their ability to close a deal with or without a mortgage, do you see other people assuming that risk to edge out? Yes.
And so, yes, I think we've answered that question. Absolutely. If they know they can pay cash, yes, absolutely. But what sellers don't want to see and agents do not want to see is someone saying they're a cash buyer, and then they say, oh, we're getting a mortgage. But there is one thing I don't think we talked about. We mentioned earlier that sellers will say, well, what's the difference between a cash offer and no mortgage contingency? And the difference is that you can have delays with getting a mortgage. It could be a title issue or something that, makes the mortgage process move along slower than normal. It could be, many different reasons, but you're always beholden to the bank and you're on their time schedule. So obviously, someone paying cash, they don't have to depend on that third party to, get their mortgage cleared to close and to have, the bank's attorney at the closing. So it's just cleaner and easier, of course, with all cash. All cash. But again, we certainly don't like people to say I'm all cash.
You have
and then
to
say, I'm getting a mortgage.
Unless it was in your terms. I know we've seen that done before where the buyer is paying cash, they could elect to get a mortgage.
Yeah, if you say that up front, I am cash.
Right.
I may decide to get a mortgage, but this is not going to delay the process. So I think what we're hearing and what we are trying to say is communication is key. When making an offer, it is very important, and we do this with our buyers and with our sellers, to clarify everything and to make sure all the bases are covered. So do we have any other questions coming in?
And I think
I know that we had
Melanie's
earlier.
question.
Yes. This came in. Do you think if we drop our mortgage contingency will really give us a leg up? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
So I think we have answered all of your questions. So really excited. I'm not sure who's going to be around to join me next week because it will be the day before Thanksgiving. But because we are committed to you, our viewers, we are not going to take a break next week. We're going to come to you live next Wednesday. And our topic is going to be, now I used this term, and some people didn't know what I meant by it, but I think Yvonne Googled it, and I think we confirmed that creature comforts, creature comforts.
Sounds like this is the next season of Stranger Things.
Well, you never know. Well, in real estate, Stranger Things. But anyway, I haven't seen the show yet, but I've heard it's great.
It's good.
But next week's episode, since Thanksgiving is next week, what we're going to talk about are things in your home that are creature comforts, things that bring you comfort, things that you really love about your home. I was just with friends this past weekend, and there were so many things that I picked up on that were really things that just brought them joy and brought them comfort. Now, one of our team's favorite things, and my friend had this, is, do you know which one I'm talking about? Ice maker. Having an ice maker. I mean, something as simple as that brings people so much. I don't think the right word would be joy.
Oh, it is.
But I loved their ice maker. And how much more water would we drink?
Oh, how much
if we had our ice maker?
How much more dental work would we need?
Oh, no.
Maybe it's your fireplace. Maybe it's your fireplace.
Maybe it's your fireplace indoors. Maybe it's your outdoor fireplace. Maybe it's your screened-in porch, or it could be your front porch. Could be sitting on your coming soon. Could be sitting on your front porch. Could be your wine refrigerator.
Could be a view.
Could be a view. Could be in your kitchen. Maybe a coffee station. I know a house recently had a coffee station, and I thought, wow, wouldn't that be so nice to have? Right?
Very nice.
So anyway, those are just some things to. We're getting sick. It's time to wrap it up. So those are just ideas of some things that we're talking about. And
so tell us what your creature comforts are.
Tell us what your creature comforts are.
Yes.
And then also Thanksgiving traditions.
Yes.
So we want to hear from you. We want to hear from our viewers, our clients, our friends. What are your Thanksgiving traditions? What will your family be doing this Thanksgiving? And then what things at home really make your home to you?
Right.
So
I love it.
Until next week.
Next week.
We hope you have a great week. Hope your preparation for Thanksgiving goes well.
Yes.
And until next week, we're signing off of What's Up Westchester, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 1.